There you go.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the August 14th, 2025 TDLCB meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. My name is Wayne Olson, sitting in for Myra Uribe. I'm the chair of the
QATF, yeah.
task force. Both the chair and the vice chair were unable to be with us at this time. They are both representing their cities at other events, so I will be chairing the meeting today. I'd like to ask Rob to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, Bob. I did say Rob, but that's okay. You did a good job. Okay. I want to remind all members that this meeting and all future meetings are held in person, and it is important for all members to be here in order for us to have a quorum. Members of the public are still able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. I'd also ask members to please be sure to activate your microphone before speaking and deactivate it after for your remarks. This will help ensure that everyone is able to be heard by those in the room and online. I'll ask Ms. Whittington to take us through our agenda review and share any announcements, and afterwards, Ms. Frederick, if you will do the roll call.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and members, and thank you for stepping in. That's the reason that we have the bylaws and order in place so that, we can continue on with business. I trust that Commissioner Uribe will be joining us at any time. But our agenda is prepared. There aren't any changes to the agenda. But we do have Mike Wilson, who is here to do a safety moment, which we bring to you at each of your meetings and our board and committee meetings. And following Mike, Ms. Frederick will call a roll.
Thank you, Virginia, and good morning, everyone. Our safety moment this month is on distracted driving. And there we go. It will play. Okay, good. All right.
Distracted driving is dangerous, but some people just can't seem to help themselves. There's the steering wheel propper, the sneak-a-peeker, the fast roller, the night-lighter. And it's not long until they become the fender benderer, the got-a-ticketer, the veering off the road, the driver who kills someone. Enough with the phones already. Just put them down.
That PSA is from Federal Highway Administration. They have a number of similar ones that any organization can put to use, to share, of course, social media and other channels. Just a little bit of data on this issue. About 4 out of 10 of our fatal and serious crashes involve a distracted driver in our area. Looking back at our historical data, Florida did implement a wireless law in 2019, but it was only for a non-moving violation, so it wasn't a primary violation. Since then, crashes involving distraction for serious crashes have actually increased. So, the effectiveness of not having a primary enforcement is really key there. There was a Senate bill this past term that would have made it into a moving violation and added points, but that didn't go anywhere in the House. So hopefully next year we'll see that being brought back. And that concludes my safety moment. Be happy to take any questions.
Not a question, but I will tell you that I use Access Links daily. Every ride I take, I try to sit in the back of the vehicle just because I hate looking at the big white board right in front of my face. But it also allows me to look out the windows. There's not a ride that I take that I don't see 2 or 3 people with phones in their hands, or like they showed in the PSA, pressed against the steering wheel. It's rampant, and it's not young kids, you know,
Right.
because when I'm going to work, kids are in school. It's adults. It's, you know, 20s, 30s, 50s, you know, it's a rampant problem.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now do roll call. If members can please stay here or present and use their microphones. Baldwin,
Here,
Berry, Campbell, Cooper, Delano, Giltz,
Present.
Jennings, Kirsty Ledgerwood, Amelia, Nueve Ruiz,
Present.
Olson,
Present.
Smith, Zubritsky.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, public comments on action items. We will now hear public comments on the action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record. Please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any member of the public wishes to comment and is joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized. If you are joining us using your phone only, please dial *9 on your phone keypad to be recognized. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
We have no hands raised online.
Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to make a public comment?
No comments received.
Okay, before we take up our action item, I want to recognize myself for a report from the last CADF meeting. I'm Wayne Olson, Chair of the CADF Quality Assurance Task Force. We had a Quality Assurance Task Force meeting July 29th, 2025. We did not have any action items. However, we received 3 updates. CTC update, a presentation to help understand ADA and TD eligibility. And at our last meeting, we discussed the rating scale used for the CTC evaluation form. Ms. Whittington provided a copy of the form to us. We will provide feedback on the rating scale for each criterion and bring back a recommendation for review and approval at the November meeting. The next CADF meeting is October 28th. This concludes my report. And in walks Commissioner Uribe, so I can hand over the gavel.
how did that power feel?
Oh, it was great.
Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for being here. We are just at the action item, which is the approval of the June 12th meeting minutes. And while you get settled, if you'd like, that Wayne, you can continue on to that and then hand it over while she gets settled. That might be helpful unless she's ready. Okay, great.
Yeah, I did. I just did that for me.
Fantastic. So the QATF.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
that.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're moving on to action items. Good morning, everyone. I'm the late Myra Uribe. So we're going to move on to the approval of the June 12, 2025 TDLCB meeting minutes, section 1. Hopefully you've had a, Miss Virginia, you wanted to take over this?
No, the minutes are presented and we're ready for a motion.
Okay, so if we could have a motion,
Nearest Bruce motion.
a second. Ms. Baldwin is our second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to the presentation and status reports. First is a status update on the development of the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan by Ms. Taylor Laurent. Is Taylor here? Oh, hey Taylor, you have a new album coming out.
Yeah, all the music keeps things interesting, that's for sure. So good morning, everyone. I am not Taylor Swift, I'm Taylor Laurent, but I am happy to present an update on our 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan this morning. And some of our more recent items that are going on, we are wrapping up and finalizing a lot of our technical documentation. So you will be seeing that come up on our website over the next several weeks. We are also working on a needs dashboard, so an online interactive way to be able to look at the myriad of transportation needs that have been identified throughout our 3-county area, all of which will be able to be sorted and filtered for people to be able to quickly and easily navigate to look at the projects in their area to see what's going on, what's needed, and ultimately what becomes cost feasible. So then that last item is our MTP cost feasible plan. So as we look at I think the number currently stands at 2,900 needs that have been identified for our 3-county area. We know we can't afford all of them, unfortunately. So the cost feasible plan is where we are looking to see which of those projects on our transportation to-do list are highly prioritized and cost feasible within the next 10 to 25 years. So that's currently in development, and we will have more information on that in the coming weeks as well. But as a bit of a heads up, in terms of the cost feasible plans development, there are 4 different buckets of funds that are represented within that cost feasible plan document. The first and largest source of funds are those federal and state funds for the state highway system. That represents about $54 million per year used for a wide variety of projects, including roadway widenings, urban corridor improvements, operational solutions, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, the widest variety in terms of that. The second bucket of funds, that really small one in the middle of the screen, is for federal funds for other roads and other projects. These can be used both on the state highway system and off, and are collaborated on between the state and Metro Plan Orlando. Then that third bucket of funds are federal funds for MPO priorities. That represents about $34 million per year, and is what Metro Plan Orlando has available to be able to use for projects and kind of allocate those as we see fit as part of the MPO funding policy, which is being developed as part of the MTP as well. And then the fourth bucket of funds are those federal funds for transit. This is usually operations and maintenance, some capital funds as well, but these are the federal transit formula funds that are based upon performance for Lynx and Sunrail. So of those 4 different funding types, that third bucket up on the screen, the navy blue one, is the one that applies to Metro Plan Orlando's funding, and what we are really focusing on as part of the MTP's funding policy development. So kind of going back to April of this year, several of you were able to join us for the MTP Summit that we had up in Lake Mary. Thank you for your participation. That was where we introduced and started evaluating different funding scenarios that we could use for the MTP. So looking at how we were going to invest these transportation funds within our region. We looked at 5 different scenarios that day, and have been talking with each of our committees, technical workshop participants, getting your feedback as well as the public's, to be able to iterate on those different funding scenarios, build consensus on the items that we all agree on, and hammer out the details on those final remaining questions, so we could ultimately build and recommend a single funding scenario. Since April, we've had 9 different scenarios that we've evaluated and talked about at 18 regional coordination meetings, so just a little bit of talking about it. So that way we could come to a recommended funding policy, which was approved by the Metro Plan Orlando board at their July meeting for us to move forward with. So this was approved not only by the board, but also each of our advisory committees as well. And this does incorporate all the feedback that we've received from you, our technical workshop participants, and the public throughout this process. So this does include the 5 categories that we've been evaluating since April. So a high injury network countermeasures category, which really focuses on expediting safety improvements on our state highway system and off, really focusing on the projects that were identified through our Vision Zero planning efforts throughout the region. Then our complete streets and urban corridor improvements, TISMO and technology improvements, active transportation, as well as transit capital. So now we have that recommended funding policy. We know where we're going to invest those funds. We're applying that policy right now to develop the draft cost feasible plan, which we will be able to share in the coming weeks. So we can see exactly which of those projects are considered cost feasible with the implementation of this plan. So we're working on the preparation of that technical documentation and continuing our public participation and agency coordination as that comes together. So later this month and early September, we will have a draft of that cost feasible plan available for review, and we'll be able to let you know once that is uploaded to our website. And at the end of September, we will be having a public meeting to be able to present not only the results of the cost feasible plan, but the entirety of the MTP, so people can see how it all came together, how we've used their feedback, incorporated their information, and ultimately built a cost feasible plan for projects here in our Central Florida area through 2050. So with that, we are nearing the end of the 2050 MTP's development process. That public meeting is going to be our big show about how it's all come together, the one-stop shop for the MTP's development. That will be September 29th. And with that, we are still on track to adopt the full 2050 MTP at the December board meeting this year. So with that, that concludes my update. Does anyone have any questions?
Was there anyone that had a question?
Yeah, you had something about a dashboard on at the beginning of the presentation.
Yes.
Is that in the works or?
It's in the works at the moment. I'm hoping it's going to be fully updated within the next week or so. But that dashboard is going to showcase all of the transportation needs that have been identified throughout our region, regardless of whether they're cost feasible or not. So that way, any of us from Metroplan Orlando can help them move forward. But if our local agencies, transportation operating partners want to pursue federal discretionary grants or other funding sources, then they're able to prove that planning consistency because we've included it in our documentation.
So, but has not been shown to the public, right? It's not something that's going to the public right now?
It will be published for the public on our
No,
website
will be
very soon.
published, yeah, but
Yes.
no. And the reason I bring this up is because maybe in the other part of transportation, I see a lot of citizens wanting to know specifically how much money is being spent on safety, how much money is spent on like bike trails. So I don't know what format you're gonna be following. I don't know if it will be good for this group at some point to look at a beta version of that dashboard and maybe provide you with recommendations. It's something to consider.
Yeah, we can share the link with you as soon as it's up and running.
So, you know me, I love to go rogue with you guys, right? Lewis is an expert in this, right? And he's a consultant. He's come to Orange County. I would like to open up a question. Does anybody really understand what we're talking about here? Okay, because it's okay. It's okay. Because I would like Miss Virginia, and maybe we need to take this to Gary Hutman. I'm part of the MPOAC, which is actually all the 27 MPOs. I chair that board. It's a statewide board. And we have a thing called the Institute, where you actually learn what these things mean, what these funding buckets are. And although we can't all go together because we'd be violating sunshine, but I would like to encourage, I'm very passionate about transportation. You guys know I've always talked about this. And I am very passionate about this board because we're the ones that no one sees. Okay, literally, we're the ones that no one knows is out there. We know it's out there, but we really don't know. You can always tell people, I know the bus, I know Sunrail, I know all these other things. But when it comes to access links and this transportation, people are like, oh yeah, I see in the van, or I see in the bus. But I would like to see, and I'm not the chair or the co-chair, the vice chair, I am number 3 on the totem pole. But I would like to encourage that if somebody, and Louis, you know what I'm talking about, it's a one day. It is run by DOT. Well, it's run by MPOAC, which is the board that I oversee. It's run by our executive director. Will you learn actually what these funding buckets mean and how does it come to us? Because when we know, and Taylor's doing a great job, but Taylor's so smart, she's speaking Chinese to me, right? So I'll admit it. She's just, she's great. She's really good at what she does. But if we don't understand that and we're being presented, I could easily just go, okay, no questions, let's move on. And you guys would sleep well tonight. But how do we empower ourselves as advocates to really fight for funding, for hearing our voice. And I don't know what we need to do to look at the possibility of trying to get everybody kind of over the time, we're going to be here, to go to a meeting and really learn how this funding and how it actually impacts us. Okay. You're a great advocate for your patients, but knowing really, hey, we know there's federal dollars for this, or we know where this is going, or what do we need to go and advocate for? I encourage this board to start having us not only be seen, but be heard and being able to step up and do this. Because even Lewis asking for the dashboard, I don't know what this dashboard means. Okay, I'm going to tell you, this dashboard is even more, it's complicated, but it'll empower us as advocates to consider this. And I wanted to know if there's an appetite so we can have, and not you, Taylor, we can have Virginia see what the process is. By the way, they do 2 of these a year. Okay, there's one coming up in October 28th, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. And it is in the, it depends on where it's at in the state. You know, we were trying to have it here. This one's going to be in Palm Beach, but I'm taking the Bright Line, going to it and coming back the same day. But I would love this board to be considered to get that info, to learn that info, and to be able to help this board be more empowered. So before I present it to Virginia, I'd like to know if there's an appetite, if there is a motion for Virginia to look into this so that we can see procedurally what we can do to be a part of this and really understand. And a second, so this board can empower Virginia to go find out how this board becomes more and more knowledgeable and qualified to be able to have this conversation, but more importantly, to advocate for these dollars.
Marilyn, you making the motion?
Yes, I make.
I'll second Marilyn.
Okay, so don't worry, I went rogue. Okay, so, you know, I do me. So it's not on the agenda. So what we just did to keep you up to par is Taylor just gave us a presentation of the upcoming plan and the funding and the federal buckets. But I asked the board, does anyone really know how this really happens and how it affects us? And everyone kind of, well, Lewis knows, you know, but that's what Lewis does for. Yes.
It's the rest of the members,
And
you know.
so there is a Transportation Institute. It's a 1-day that's done by MPOAC, which I chair, which teaches you the funding buckets and how that comes down to us. And I asked Virginia, so we had a motion by Ms. Baldwin and a second by Lewis to see if we can start sending one person from this board. You know, it'll take us a while to get the whole board, but so that we can learn how we can really financially advocate and stand up for our board.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
So with that, I don't think anyone has a question for Taylor.
No,
October 3rd, the album comes out, or Lewis has another one.
no, yeah, we also have to be sure because some of the our members have some type of visibility that it's accessible to everyone, the dashboard. So let's just make sure of that. So I think it will be good to have it in the future, just to take a look at it, play with it, and have people explain to it, because I'm seeing that people are asking for this type of information. I was just in the Community Rail Commission meeting about a month ago, and the paper just mentioned that $26 million is going to cost to expand Sunrail for the weekends. But what I see is there's a lot of need to kind of educate the public about what all of this means, because it can get very mysterious and very esoteric to the general public. So that I will just move. We can definitely have at some point see the dashboard as a board and provide comments. I will really appreciate that, because I think it's very important to educate. We're ambassadors to this program, so it's very important that we educate the public.
Yes, and we'll be able to share the link to that dashboard. We are also developing a user guide to help make it a little easier for people to use, and a how-to video that shows how some of that can be easily navigated as well. So we'll be able to share all 3 of those once they're complete.
Yeah, in addition, we're not just ambassadors, we're advocates for this, okay? And just to make you all aware, $15 million of your tax dollars subsidize the Sunrail. So where we're gonna come up with the other 26 million, it's not on ridership. So you all need to be aware, because this is not only affecting what we advocate for, but it's affecting you financially as a taxpayer in this county. So I'm glad. So we're gonna empower Miss Virginia to find out how we can do this, because this is so important. I mean, many of you don't know, I think it was 2 years ago that the state no longer financially supported Sunrail. So it has all come on you as tax dollars, and we just repaid it for next year, what it's gonna cost us. And now they're talking about expansion, which may help, but you all need to know how it affects you directly. But one of the things I brought up through the budget hearing is we never talked about access links enough. We never talk about the full capacity of needing funding and the accountability and all of that. I brought it up during our budget hearing in front of Ms. Hawkins, but if you don't know, you don't know. Okay. And trust me, and I'm trying to get my county commission board members to also go to this, but doing it through Metro Plan Orlando. So wonderful. So we'll get the information, because I would love, I mean, we're in August, and I don't know if there's a possibility we can get a seat. I'll make us get a seat for October, but what needs to happen through Metro Plan Orlando to maybe get an email out. And I'll just ask, I know, I want to say it's the 28th, it's a Friday in October. In case if there's anyone who thinks they could possibly attend, like would be of interest, I'm gonna look it up. It's on my calendar, so I know, because I'm gonna be there. I'm just gonna look it up to see when it is.
Well, Madam Chair, while you're doing that, just a reminder that you did not close out your motion. You still have your motion on the floor.
Yes, ma'am.
And then October 28th is the next QATF meeting here. So I know that that's a Tuesday. That rang out in my mind. So, but if you will, get the information, or I'll do the research and make sure that what this board is asking for
Yes.
comes back to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
It is a Friday in October, but if there's anyone that's possibly interested, that if she got the information, is there anyone who's willing? Would you be interested? Okay, wonderful. Yeah, okay. So we do have somebody who's interested in attending this year, and then we don't know if it's gonna happen, so to save time, if it's possible, we have someone who'd be interested in going, and then we could get a full report from him when he comes back to see if this is the direction the board wants to go. Okay,
And to provide a report?
yeah.
Jeez,
both.
it's like school.
Hey, nothing's free, no free lunches anymore, you know. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Taylor. And at this time, we're gonna move on to our Links Community Transportation Coordinator, Lindy Castillo and Miss Salita Stubbs.
Having us. As you know, we do not have our director. Norm Hicklin had departed the agency. So we're standing in until we have a replacement. And at this time, I'd like to acknowledge our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. David Burrows, is in the audience, testing us.
Uh-oh.
So y'all be nice to us today. We're gonna start with the presentation. Thank you, Rachel. Lindy will start.
What do you hit this screen?
Just with this.
So we ready?
Same way?
on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm.
We're gonna do the same presentation that we gave to the QATF, which went very well. And I pray that we do the same for you today.
I think we have a much larger audience from a couple of weeks ago, so be easy. But my name is Lindy Castillo. Work for Lynx. I'm the manager of customer service here at Lynx with my partner in crime, Salita Stubbs. So we want to just give you a quick overview of the presentation. And again, we'll ask for questions once we finish this presentation. But again, thank you for having us, Virginia. Thank you as well. Really quick, what we're going to run through this PowerPoint is the overview, of course. We're going to talk about the Access Links demand, trip demand, Access Links performance, trip duration, customer service activity, service costs, which was mentioned a little while ago here, and funding, opportunity, summary, and questions and close. Okay. So just really interesting, and you may or may not know this, Access Links trip demand has increased by at least 7% year to date, 2025, compared to same time period last year. So we're talking, several hundred to 1,000 more trips that we're committed to. In fact, in June 2025, there was an increase over June of 2024 of about 7%. On-time performance is improving. We're maintaining a good performance at the goal. In relation, call center, which is the folks that take these calls, not only for access links, but for fixed route, complaints, commendations, suggestions, neighbor link, anything that the public, the writing public that uses our modes of transportation, they go to call and they have questions. They may have recommendations as well. So keep that in the back of your mind. And then we have the cost of service challenges, which we spoke to briefly. And you mentioned the dashboard. That's something very interesting. And once you start digging in deeper, you'll see, wow, this is the way it really works. And what can we do to help access links in our 3 jurisdictions? So I'm glad that was brought up. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the paratransit fleet status. You know, what's happening? Are the new vehicles coming? Are they here? How many? And so that's part of our topic here for today. The second piece is we want to break down year to date. You know, what's the trip demand? What's happening out here in the streets? And if you look at, 2025 versus 2024, you start seeing that increase of several thousand trip demands per month, January, February, March, April, May, June. And you'll see if you do the multiplication division, you'll see that 7% increase in ridership, which is good. But that proves that Access Links needs to be partnering with MetroPlan Orlando every day in our dialysis centers, our employment centers. We're an integral part of this community, and we want to make sure that we're doing things correctly. So as you look at those numbers, at least through June, you could see, we're making it happen. The trip demand is increasing, so be aware of that. We're projecting the same thing for July. The numbers are coming in already. It looks positive, and then for the rest of the 5 months that are going to make up the year. So keep that aware. The next slide is really just talking about the performance. So we looked at January through June. We completed 343,000 trips already for that time span. Our on-time performance dipped a little bit. Our average on-time performance is hitting 91% at this point. Now you'll look at the bottom grid, trip of purpose. You may say, okay, wow, what is this? So if you look at the 343,000 trips we did for that time period, January through June, 100,000 of those were just employment related. And then another 82,000 were for dialysis and cancer treatments. And then you see it go down for 68,000 recreational, education, medical, shopping, etc. So employment and dialysis are a big ticket for us as far as transportation. And that's pretty much our vulnerable group too, the dialysis center. So we want to make sure that we're out there and we're hearing what the customers are saying, what's going on with the drivers. So it's pretty unique how this breakdown shows the purpose of the trips. The next slide, something also unique, trip duration. We classify our trips by mileage, what's 1 to 5 miles versus a 32 plus mile trip. And the duration thresholds that we have established, that's been established for years, is 1 hour. It should take about 1 hour to do anywhere from 1 mile to 5 mile trip. The average distance is about 2.88 miles. Our average duration, I'm proud to report that it takes about 24 minutes to do that distance, the 1 to 5 miles. And if you look at the chart and you go line by line, it gives you an indication of what a 5 to 9 mile trip would take, 1 hour and 15 minutes. That's about a 7.5 mile distance. And we're clocking at about 37 minutes. And so as you go down the line, you could see it's increasing. The distances are increasing. And with the mileage distance, there's traffic, there's accidents, something is going on in our region. So keep that in the back of your mind. I wish it was an easy flow, but it's not. But we're there and we're making it work. Customer service activity. If you look at the average speed of answer for each month, we ended in June at about 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Total calls, you could see for the month of June, we averaged about 55,000 calls for just that month. The calls answered was about 47,000, which gave us about an 86% captured rate. So the call center is very busy. The staff there is making it work. We're continually doing training, recalibrating schedules, looking at where everyone fits throughout the 24-hour window. So they've done a good job on that. Salita, you want to talk about the service costs and funding?
Here's where I come in. This is the transportation disadvantage funding that we receive from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. The amount of reimbursement compared to the amount of TD trips we do are not equal. If you look at the fuchsia pink section, that is the amount of trips we do each month for just transportation disadvantage trips. That includes your dialysis trips, that includes your TD employment trips, medical trips, recreational trips. We do not prioritize these trips. However, in the green is what we get reimbursed on a grant from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. So in theory, our funding partners, Osceola, Seminole, and Orange, are picking up that difference. Again, as Madam Chair, you maybe mentioned the funding for transportation disadvantage. We probably do need to be doing a lot more lobbying. It would be nice for us to be able to see the commission look at exactly what is going on in each of our counties and see how much transportation disadvantage need there is here. And maybe we can see a difference in the coming years. The amount that we collected each month for 2024 has now reduced an additional $20,000 a month, equating to about another $400,000 in a decrease in funding. We have no sight on any other. This is a transportation of last resort, but we have no insight as to whether they have any other opportunities on insurance companies that give them a transportation component to their insurance where they are paying to travel. We can't see that. So as far as we know, we are that last resort. And we can use a little help on that. If there is a way that we can look into Medicaid and say, hey, you got 12 trips available to you this month for medical, that's saving us 12 trips. And then we pick up after those are utilized. So it's something for us to look at going forward. It's okay. So it's just putting it on the table that, you know, when we talk about transportation, that this is not ADA at all. This is solely transportation disadvantaged customers. And this is where we are with that. So it's only fair for us to let everybody know when we get those calls and how we do our eligibility and then applying for the eligibility. We also have to look at that as a bottom line as well. We had changed our criteria. We probably need to go back and discuss all of that again to see how it's working. We put that out as kind of like the pilot to go forward. Now we're doing stats on that so we can bring it back to the table. And you had an immediate question, I'm sure, Ms. Betsy, if the chair would allow.
I was just going to point out that the biggest issue that we in the dialysis centers were seeing with transportation that is funded by the insurance companies, mostly the Medicare Advantage plans, were offering transportation for dialysis with no copays. But they were not very upfront with the patients and saying these trips are limited. When they sign up, they just think they're covered. So they run out quickly. They might get 72 trips a year, and that goes by really quick in a few months for dialysis. They weren't transitioning those people to their Medicaid trips after that. There was a big stopping point where I had to transition them to links because the insurance company were denying their rides. They weren't getting to dialysis. But that we worked very hard as social workers in the dialysis community to remedy that problem. And I see that it's better in the last 2 months than it was at the beginning of the year. now they're, we really pushed, for that, and I think it's better now. I don't know if you've noticed it at Lynx or not, but hopefully, it's reduced the number of trips. No.
We appreciate all the help you can give us in there.
Okay.
Thank you. We're gonna take that back and
Yeah, I'll share with
take a
you.
look at that. If there's no other questions on this chart, I'll move back to Lindy.
Yes, Ms. Bolt.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Baldwin.
Yes, that's you, Marilyn.
Oh, okay,
Ms. Baldwin.
didn't hear. Has there been any research into, particularly for the TD program, patients doing, except for dialysis, of course, doing some of their doctor visits virtually, particularly
Interesting
with the
question.
Medicaid clients?
I think those are gonna be phased out by, Medicare is not gonna be covering those for sure.
She can't hit.
I'm sorry. I think that those video visits are being phased out. They're
Yes, that's what I was
discouraging
afraid
people
of.
from video visits now.
What can we do to possibly help some of those, help that service come back? Because I have a lot of friends who live with disabilities who find those virtual visits helpful and they don't have to travel.
Really don't think any of us have that answer at this time. It's a good question. I think that went real big with the pandemic, but I do see that fading away a lot.
I did want to have a follow-up question to hers, but she said, when you reach the 72 visits, right, it doesn't automatically transition. How is it possible, or is there a way to create a trigger system with you all to help? Because that seems like it's a lot of labor, but ultimately you have a patient who doesn't know if they're going to get transported because they've reached their 72 cap. And is there a system almost like we know when these folks have providers that provide only so many trips, dialysis is normally 2 or 3 days a week. When you think of the math, if the fiscal year starts, we're just going to say January 1, by March, April, they're getting close. I mean, is there a way to develop a system that will make it easier, or a point of contact or someone?
Commissioner and members, this is one of the issues that has been brought to this board over the last several years, that access links and providers around the state do not have access to that information for those patients. It used to be, previous to a couple of administrations ago, that Links was able to know if a client were a dual, like if they had Medicare Advantage and Access Links, that they would be able to look into the system and see how many trips they still had. But that went away. It was legislatively mandated in Tallahassee to go away. So they can no longer see that. And they've been advocating and trying to have access to those records again. So if they were to have access, then absolutely they would be able to do some type of trigger or use all of these first or do a mix, but they don't have access to that. And it has been an issue for a number of years now.
Okay, I'm going to follow up with the dialysis unit and then I'll recognize you, David. You all know when they come in and you all know when the fiscal year starts, don't you, for their insurance?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not saying that you guys have to talk to each other, but you all should be given a priority. Someone who has an extensive medical, cancer, dialysis should be able to have a point of contact or a much more clear communication with you all to make that transition go seamlessly in the process. And I think that could be, because she's a counselor, she's the one that's dealing with the patient and trying to do this. There should, you all knowing that our limitations on information from the state are limited, can we create a process specifically for someone in her role, which your number one thing is dialysis, number two is cancer, that person can help this patient to secure that they're not going to miss anything due to the lack of transportation. So while we're working through that legislative angle, can we create a process, almost like a priority
Well,
to the patient?
correction, they do not miss the transportation to dialysis because we.
And I don't want to say that they miss, but I
Yeah.
know it becomes stressful to the patient.
Not from links,
Yeah.
from the other provider.
Yeah.
The insurance
Exactly.
company.
Yeah.
We're there, we show up because we don't
Yeah.
question whether they have other insurance or if there's a Medicaid. And since 2015, that has not been,
You won't deny someone a ride,
we do.
but I'm just saying, can we at least, while we work through, you're not gonna get that data. At least giving these folks, the caseworkers, a priority to be able to get that patient to that process and not having to cost so much.
So that's not exactly the issue. When I request links that Access Links take the patients, they do. The issue is the patients don't have co-pays to pay. They're not prepared for it. And things are getting tighter and tighter for disabled people. And they just don't have the money to pay the co-payments. So they do have, they're called dually eligible patients, and they have special needs. And the Medicare Advantage plans are special needs plans. And they have a care manager, and they have a number on the back of their insurance cards, and they're, in an ideal world, they can call that care manager and say, I'm all out of trips for Medicare, switch me over to my Medicaid trips now. But it doesn't happen. And that's why they're stranded. And then I do set up links, but the people can't utilize it because they don't have co-payments. So that's another big issue. But what I was trying to say is that there should be less of that going on, and the burden shouldn't all of a sudden be on links that transport these people, co-payment or no co-payment, because they're entitled to it under Medicaid. I mean, Medicaid should be paying for the rest of their trips, but the insurance companies don't make that transition for the patient when the Medicare trips run out. That's the limited number that they have. So we have been working very hard to remedy that issue. And I think that it's getting better.
And it's not only Medicaid, because you have private insurance companies that have a transportation provision if they opt into it. But we wouldn't know that.
There were another I had to move down here. My screen stopped working.
I'm sorry, so I want to speak to Medicaid. So if a recipient has Medicaid, all they need to do is call. If they're on a plan, they need to contact their plan. If they're not on a plan, if they're in fee for service, they need to contact transportation to make sure they get those rides. We're talking about Medicare is the federal government, Medicaid is state. So we got to make sure we understand those are different. So, and I'm not sure how Medicare, when they run out of their trips, but if they're on Medicaid, all they need to do is contact their plan if they're in a plan, and then they can get those services through their plan.
Okay, but we wouldn't be the ones to
Right, it would be their
tell them or
responsibility.
educate them, no.
It would be their responsibility, or the case managers if you all can help them with that.
We're aware of that, but there's a breakdown right there. When they run out of Medicare trips, they should just transition into, they're covered by Medicaid. These are patients with full Medicaid. And under their insurance, they should be covered under their Medicaid. But the insurance companies just stop they don't answer their phones, the patients call and call, just as usual.
They said the plans don't answer.
Exactly.
So like I was telling you all last night, we have a
Mike.
complaint system, you can go online and they can file that complaint, and then it'll get the ball rolling to make sure they get the services that they need.
That's what we do.
Okay, have you all got any results?
Yes, getting better.
Okay.
And think about this, we're not talking about one or two, we're talking thousands of people that are going through this same issue. And we'll catch it if they're in the program, if they're in the TD program. Otherwise, we're not privy to their personal information, which we shouldn't. But that has something that they have to work out with their Medicaid, Medicare, customer care managers there. All of those people involved need to be aware of that. Once the resources are extinguished and they come to us and they go through the eligibility process, there is a pay. And like Betsy said, that some of those folks don't have enough funds to support them to travel every week.
And it was also noted before, we'll note it again. We seem to be showing up better as well with, in light of non-emergency medical transport. We've had several instances where we would show up and they have reserved rides on both, depending on who shows up first. Okay.
Well,
We don't ask the
Oh,
question
you don't ask
anymore.
the
Since
question.
2015, we do not ask the question because we are no longer Medicaid providers.
so that number you threw out, those people may not be actually on Medicaid. I mean, I don't know that.
We wouldn't know.
Right, right.
We wouldn't know.
Okay.
Madam
But
Chair.
we do know that if they have a transportation portion to their insurance, some of them do try to use it, and if non-emergency doesn't show up, okay, they also have an eligibility with us. So they reserve both, and they jump on whichever one shows up. So sometimes we're doing wasted trips.
Yes, that's happening a lot.
Quite a bit.
Madam Chair, I am salivating at the possibility of this going back to QATF and workshopping this to really take a look at the issues. There's already a couple of items that will be coming before them. You heard Wayne mention your CTC evaluation criteria will be looked at by QATF, the eligibility application. And I believe that this might be another opportunity. It is an opportunity to bring people to the table and take a look at where the breakdown is and possibly come up with some solutions that we can really make a difference with this. So that would be my recommendation. And then QATF meetings are open to anyone who would like to join. So we certainly would like to see Mr. Smith. We'd love to see you there. And Betsy, you're already there, but to really take a deeper dive into what the issues are and bring some recommendations back.
I agree. And I would actually like to just say, hopefully we don't take long advocating on what we need. Because we get an early session, and if there's an opportunity to get into our delegation's ear on this, we need to. So I hope that it can be done with some, I'm not the chair, but I'm hoping we could get this moved quickly to at least have some sort of criteria to start moving forward.
Sure. What I'll do is I'll meet with the Links team, Access Links. We'll do a meeting very, very quickly and then come back to you with a recommendation.
Great. I do have a question. Is there going to be someone moved into this as a permanent role? I mean, you guys are winging it great today, but I think there's a lot more issues that keep probing that this board is here to advocate for, but we don't want to put that on you. And, the victim, that we had before.
I gladly say yes, ma'am.
No, because I think it's really important. This is the most forward-facing, most accurate group that you're going to have that not only hears from the people who ride, but are riders and know about this. And so it'd be, Norm, even though I used to always give him a hard time, he understood it through and through, and it'd be great to have someone be able to represent that, and so that we can hopefully make us better. That's the
Yes,
goal.
ma'am. Hopefully by the time you see us again, we will be fully staffed.
Okay, tell them to get their armor ready. We're not easy.
Don't worry.
All right, thank you both so much.
Thank you. He's going to continue to finish.
Just in summary, the demand for trip has been robust. Nearly 57,000 trips performed per month. On-time performance has remained steady. Vehicle fleet, 63 out of the 85 have been delivered. We're receiving consistent deliveries. We're trying to prevent existing or maintain the existing fleet. It's scorching out there. ACs are going out. So the team is out there 24/7 repairing them as quickly as possible. And then you've got to, deal with parts and stuff like that are in back order. But the maintenance team has really done a fantastic job getting those vehicles out in the street. So kudos to that team. We're still targeting the 3-minute average speed of answer amid the call center challenges. And folks have questions out there. Sometimes, when they're traveling, they may not be sure about the address. My team, is pushing try to get accuracy, going on to Google Maps just to help them out. but these calls are not 1 minute or 2 minutes. There's a lot of things happening out in the world, and we're there to help them. And I think hopefully compliments will be coming in for the staff, but otherwise, we thank you and we thank the clients for riding our system. Any questions?
Other questions?
Additional questions?
No, but we look forward to seeing you guys at the next meeting and hopefully meeting that new person. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to.
Chair, I don't have a
Oh, yes,
question.
ma'am, yes. I'm
I
sorry.
do have a comment, and I just wanted to bring light to this piece of it, because we're here to advocate and we want to do that. But I also want to acknowledge when we go back and look at your customer service activity, and I did this in our QATF as well. If you look at June versus April with that, like you've improved significantly. And that's if you all look at that, and those are the months that are very similar, answering roughly about 55,000 calls. And it was 6 minutes, 26 seconds per average speed of answer. And they're down to 3 minutes, 51 seconds answering more calls. So even with the call answer percentage increasing. So kudos to you and your team. But I want to recognize that's awesome job. Whatever's happening, it's working. So just keep up the good work.
Wonderful. Now we're gonna move on to the mobility matters, understanding ADA and transportation disadvantage eligibility. Section 4. Ms. Virginia.
So good morning again, Madam Chair and members. And again, Madam Chair, thank you so much for chairing today's meeting in the absence of our chair and vice chair, and for Wayne getting us started this morning. This presentation very quickly is in response to a request that this board made, wanting to understand the differences between the transportation disadvantaged funding and the ADA funding, and those and how they are eligible for transportation in the Central Florida area. So the presentation was done by Links. They put it together, and last meeting at the QATF, I volunteered to do this. So I want to say thank you to the staff for putting it together, and they have my back. So if I get anything wrong, Salita's going to jump up and pull my coattail. But the ADA program is the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is an act of 1990 that applies to federal transit systems and fixed route service. It dictates that the service must be provided, must be accessible vehicles and complementary paratransit for individuals who are unable to use the fixed route system. This is a federal regulation. As Calvin Smith or Mr. Smith earlier mentioned, the difference between the Medicaid and Medicare, one is federal, one is state. The key requirements is that the system has to be accessible, fixed route. It must have paratransit service that is available to eligible riders within 3/4 miles of a fixed route if they cannot use the regular service due to disabilities. Their disabilities could be physical or cognitive, but it prevents them from using the fixed route transit service in specific conditions under which the individual cannot travel to or from the bus stops are also included in that. So there must be comparable service to the fixed route service in terms of hours and the geographic area. So it must be complementary. And although this is a federally mandated act, ADA paratransit is not federally funded. It is a federally mandated act, but it is not federally funded, which means it's one of those unfunded mandates that contributes to the delta in terms of the service that is provided here. So the types of eligibility, there's conditional eligibility, which is those individuals who can use the fixed route under certain conditions, but not always because of their specific disability-related barrier. There's a permanent eligibility in which the individual's disability is not expected to improve, and their eligibility does not require, or their eligibility is reevaluated like over every 3 years. Transitional eligibility is an individual's eligibility is temporary, and is granted for a limited amount of time due to maybe a short-term health issue, that from which they may recover. And then that unconditional eligibility is where an individual cannot use the fixed route under any circumstance due to their disability. You see the fares that are listed there, $4 or $7 one way. It depends on the length of the trip. And then the ADA visitors who come to the Central Florida area are eligible for reciprocal transportation. They would call, if they're coming to the area, they would call eligibility and schedule those rides based on their eligibility back home. They're limited to about 21 days per 365-day period. With regard to the transportation disadvantaged, which is the state transportation disadvantaged program. Again, the other was federal. This one is the state. And with this one, the Florida's Transportation Disadvantage Program is the state funded program. It's governed by Chapter 427 and Rule 41-2 of the Florida Administrative Code. You all are quite familiar with that. We talk to you about that when we do your orientation to this board. And the primary purpose is for coordinated transportation for individuals who are unable to obtain their own transportation due to certain eligibility criteria. That could be age, our seniors. It could be income, socioeconomic, or their disabilities, or for other reasons. Eligibility is typically determined by 185% of the federal poverty level or less. The age requirement in terms of them being seniors, or in some instances, if they're at-risk youth, but primarily or mostly for those who are seniors and those who have limited disability or not limited to disability. It's a broader definition. The types of trips that are typically provided are those medical trips, education, shopping, employment, and some recreational. The primary source of funding is state funding that is coordinated with some federal dollars. And again, the local contribution, you heard just a while ago that it's approximately $600,000. That is a difference between what is reimbursed to this area from the state and what is actually provided those trips every month. And this is coordinated through your community transportation coordinator, Access Links. And this board provides the oversight. In both cases, there is an eligibility requirement that they must meet. There's a process. They actually have to go and download applications from the Links website or call and have an application mailed to them. They can do it that way as well. And the client who is completing the application determines by click of a button whether they are applying for ADA or the TD. So it's whichever application they fill out is the one that is returned and they are deemed eligible or ineligible for. Each of them must participate and turn in medical verification. We heard Ms. Cooper a couple of months ago when we were together talk about the fact that doctors' offices are now passing along the burden to their patients now, and they're having to either make an appointment. They no longer can just send in the form and say, hey, fill this out for me and send it back. They're charging for these. So that was another issue that came out during the course of your conversations. And each of the applicants are also required to do a functional assessment. Another thing that is required when they fill out their applications is that they have to provide documentation supporting and confirming their income. And the process takes about 21 days to determine in either case. So this just shows a side-by-side comparison from the application when it's received and the notification of outcome. Something else that happened through this board is that those who have permanent disabilities, the eligibility to renew or recertification is no longer every year, but there's an expanded window now. The service can be granted for up to 3 years, up to 3 years for those permanent ADA. So in summary, ADA paratransit is federally mandated. The could be to physical or cognitive disabilities, and it is the limitation of whether or not they're able to use a fixed route service. The service must be comparable. The TD service, again, statewide. You heard Ms. Salita Stubbs mention the words last resort option. It's not federally mandated. This is provided by the state. And those who are eligible or need to be determined eligible in both cases have to submit applications. And all of this wears on our system. We really want to be able to provide the transportation that is necessary or people need to anyone who is in need, but there are still some things, we've still got some work to do. And Madam Chair, if you have any questions or any additional information is required, Salita is going to answer all the questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Yes, Ms. Bowen.
Reminder from last time that we had our QATF. We would like to encourage each of you, when you renew that auto tag, you can at that time contribute $1 or more to the Transportation Disadvantaged Trust Fund. And just a little trip back in history, 30 years ago, I was one of the individuals that helped to get that trust fund through the legislature. So please, those monies will stay here. They are badly needed. Pass the word along to your colleagues and friends.
Yeah, I actually heard that funding is getting less and less because there's so many things now to donate to. And it's worrisome because we don't really have anybody advocating for us in that arena of things. But then you'll hear, recently honeybee, and everything else coming along. And this is where I'm concerned because no one's fighting for us. No one's putting their face out for us. How do we transition? Yes.
Orange TV could work with MetroPlan and have us come up with a little short video that we could do.
I'm happy to put in a request for Orange TV.
I think that would.
I think they do the blind experience. They do that, but honestly, videos are okay, but social media is where everything is at.
Yes.
We need TikToks. We need
all
we
of
need
that.
all of that.
That
I
is
mean,
true.
I have Orange TV come to a lot of our events and I'll look at the viewership and I'll be lucky if I get 100, 150, but then my TikToks will get 10,000 of the same thing that I did, like a back to school event. I'll get 10,000 on TikTok. I'll get 150 on YouTube. So we really do need to do that. The only bad thing is that no one can fund this for us. We have to do it ourselves free. So, another thing we gotta brainstorm on.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, if I can make one additional comment and bring to your attention that TD Trust Fund, we encourage everyone who drives a vehicle, of course, to send or contribute $1, $2, can do $50 when you renew your tags. But what ends up happening is that money comes back to the place where it's originated. So it comes back here, that dollar. But the Transportation Trust Fund, there's funding sitting there, and the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage has to lobby the legislature for authorization
To use our own money.
to use your own money. So it's like, your kid has a savings account and they got to go and ask the parents if they could get more money, and parents usually say no because that's for a rainy day or so I just want to bring that to your attention as well. So I mean, that's also another place that we can advocate, is that threshold be raised in terms of what is available to us from the Transportation Trust Fund.
That's very true, because it was how many years ago that we had to go fight to use our own money for ridership when we
Right.
went to Tallahassee. But
Right.
we should, again, I'm not the chair, but we should consider actually talking about ideas of how do we move our visibility out there. Because I think, like I said, unless you're personally affected by this, no one really knows what we do. Thank you, Ms. Whittington, for another great presentation. I did have just a quick question. I saw that you said 21 days for eligibility, but that's because when it's life sustaining, they're usually going through their carrier first, right? While that's being processed.
There's a expedited process
Or
for,
life sustaining. Okay. Alrighty. Wonderful. We're gonna move on. General information, which is a section 5, which is the planning grant updates and the report on operator payments. I want to move on to our final, which is upcoming meetings and events of interest. I encourage you all, if anybody will, consider ever coming to a Metro Plan Orlando board meeting to advocate on the TDLCB. Remember putting putting a face to the name. I end up giving a report, but it's just what I read out to my colleagues. But I would love to consider someone coming and again, showing a face to what we do. Our FPTACTD, can you tell us what that is, Ms. Virginia?
yes, that is the Florida Public Transportation Association and the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. Annually, there is a conference, an expo that is held, and that's what that is. They partner together. I will be representing us there, fresh off of a plane from San Diego the day before. And I've made some notes to bring up some of these items to the other planners who will be there because I know that the issues are not unique to Central Florida. So I will be bringing these things up to them as well.
Do you know, is there a chance to advocate, or is this all people like you coming together?
It's all people like me and Salita and the Links
Okay.
team.
Alrighty, just didn't know if us being there helps at all. Okay. The 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan public meeting is September 29th for 5 to 7 p.m. at the Orange County Multicultural Center, which is on West Colonial and Hiawassee. If anybody is able to attend, I'm sure there'll also be a live online version to see that.
There will not be a live version for this one. There will be a follow-up video, or there's a package that's going to come up, but there will not be a live online component to this one. But we do encourage you to come out. This will present the information that Taylor presented earlier, dissected into different sections so that you'll be able to get more one-on-one information and dissected understanding of that plan. So we do encourage you, and we will be sending something to each of you that you can send out to your networks and invite them to come out as well.
If you can send that, I would like to attend that. So
Absolutely.
I'll try to be there. Okay. And then we had the Quality Assurance Task Force meeting, October 28th. And lastly, our annual Transportation Disadvantaged Public Workshop will be Thursday, November 13th. We need to bring snacks that day because that day was long, if you all recall, every year. So we'll see if everybody wants to put in $1 for bagels. But okay, I'm not the chair, so that will be chaired by our chair or vice chair at that time. Miss Virginia, the only thing I want to reiterate before I open it up in case anybody has a comment is that opportunity to attend the MPOAC meeting, which will be in October. Please look out in your emails for that information, just in case somebody leaves today and says, oh, I'd like to attend. It's so good. It's so good. So I will be there, but with a different hat on. So just want to let you all know.
And Madam Chair, you're right. It is a Friday, October 10th, 9 a.m. at the Palm Beach TPA in West Palm.
Okay.
And if we're able to, it's at 10 a.m. It's October 10th. I looked on their website, and if we're able to broker one or two, Metro Plan Orlando would be able to pay transportation because we do usually have volunteer dollars to cover for members to attend certain events. And if you're able to broker it, we'll make sure that that happens. Maybe a Bright Line ride down and back.
Yeah, I'll be there and I won't be using one of those spots. I'll be using my official capacity spot, so I won't be taking one. And if there is any hesitation on getting anybody in, I'm happy to help. And it, like I said, not only, I just want to say, not only will you be going and learning, but you'll also be sitting with other elected officials who are representing transportation disadvantage across the state of Florida. And that is really good because when we have a unified voice, that's where we make an impact. It'll be in Palm Beach, which they're a very active MPO, kind of like Metro Plan Orlando. Palm Beach has their own, and they're very good, very active, and their entire board is there, and their entire board is elected officials. So even better, like it's really, really advantageous to not only be able to network and put a voice to what we do here locally. So I hope you will be there and I look forward to seeing anybody who goes. I want to open it up for any kind of member comments. Yes, sir. And then I'll come.
Question.
Okay.
Sunday night, I got a call from one of my staff, a therapist who got kind of an emergency call from one of her patients. Everyone's got phones now. A lot of times the patients want to show off what they're doing at home to the therapist. This patient was stranded at the Altamont Mall. The family van, accessible family van broke down. They had no way to get from Altamont to where they live in Rosemont. And Access Links isn't an option because they don't do same-day service. It was Sunday night at 7 o'clock. They called the taxi services and they talked to a dispatcher that said, well, we'll try to get you someone there as soon as we can, but all the accessible taxis are either down at the airport or out at the attractions. It took more than 4 hours for a taxi to get there. This individual has the custody of his 3 nieces and nephews who are school age. I was wondering if are there any safety nets out there? And I know we just talked about finances and how awful they are. Is there some system that can be set up for emergencies? Not, oh, I woke up and I want to go to the mall today, but, oh, I'm stuck at the mall or I'm stuck at the grocery store and my vehicle is broken down. I figured this would be the group to bring it up to and try to see if there was anything that I wasn't aware of.
Anybody
Crickets.
know?
Crickets.
Not at the moment. The only thing I could imagine is if somebody is stuck somewhere, is it to see if there's security at the location to at least help them be safe? Because I'm sure.
Well, they were safe. They were there as a family. The problem was the individuals in a chair like Cheryl Stone and I use. You just can't fold it up and throw it in any vehicle. You need something with a ramp or a lift. And I know it doesn't happen very often. But when it happens, it's kind of catastrophic. So maybe down the road when all our finances are in great shape, maybe this is something we could look at.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Ms. Baldwin.
Those who live with disabilities and have tried to use Brightline. I'm hearing a lot of concerns that it's not as accessible for us and that doesn't seem to be the sensitivity to the fact that we're getting on the trains, but we will need some assistance. And I wonder if maybe at our QATF meeting or our next full LCB meeting, if a representative from Sunrail could come and listen to some of the concerns that riders with disabilities have.
You mean Summerall or Brightline?
Bright line.
Bright line.
Brightline, yeah, because just Summerall was a little concerned.
Want a representative from Brightline.
Bright line, yes.
Sure, we can invite him.
Definitely.
I mean, you hear horror stories of if you don't move quickly, you're gonna get left, getting off, or once you get on, where do you go? What do you do? So it's a very real concern. I think it's a wonderful way to travel for persons with disabilities, and maybe this meeting on, or is it October the 10th, might be a good example of having some of us who have disabilities travel and experience firsthand what's happening.
And if at least help create a sensitivity factor to those that are traveling, because I don't know, has anybody ever traveled on Brightline?
Yeah.
Okay,
And that is a tough.
even when you're normal, they push you. Like, hurry, they act like the train's leaving, you know, it is just for someone who's capable of moving quickly. Because one thing I noticed about my experience with Brightline is you have people traveling with luggage, and then you have people who are just traveling to get somewhere, and they treat us all like a herd of cows, you know? And it would be good for that company to be aware and hopefully create a system that they acknowledge that. So good. I'm glad I'm the only one that felt that way, you know?
I had an opportunity to serve on a panel earlier this year with one of their people in the communications office. And so we'll reach out to her and see if she can come.
That's good. They've had a lot of people turn over, but whoever that is right now,
I'll let her know.
that's a great thought, because I know they're wanting more people to ride it, and but they've got to
And
understand.
we really would, as long as it's accessible.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you guys, and it doesn't matter who you are, because I was on a train with the coach of the Orlando Magic with his kids, and he was like just pushed on and said, the train is leaving if you don't, I mean, and this is a very prominent, I'm not nearly as important as someone like him. And he was going through that. So I just want to say, because I was like, isn't that the coach of the Orlando Magic? You know, there was one of those, and it was tough. It was definitely tough. All right. Thank you guys for all of your feedback, and thank you for allowing me to hijack the meeting. Are there any other member comments that we need to review?
If I may be allowed, I just want to acknowledge the visit from John Hanniford. He's a student at Cali Poly, bachelor's in urban city and regional planning. So he's been like job shadowing me this summer, and he's gonna be here. So he really wanted to be here to learn how these meetings work, but we have a future budget planner here.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Is there nothing else? I'm gonna move on. There's another hand.
more.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just wanted to let everybody know this is my last meeting. I will be a backup, however. Just Santiago Mercer, who is here, she is going to be taking my place. There's been some changes in our department, so she will be filling in now, but I will be here as backup just in case.
Great. You will be missed, and thank you. And today was a little bit of an aggressive meeting, so don't think that we're always like that. Okay.
No, Joe is actually returning. She served on LCB for a while, so.
Was there another hand, or is everyone good? Everyone's great. Okay, we're gonna move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to have a comment heard in the general nature. Have we received any requests either in person or online for a public comment?
We've received no comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Lastly, I want to thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this today. And, you know, I'm super proud of this board. So I will continue to advocate and be here. And thank you for giving me the grace to lead the meeting today. And if there's no other further business, we are officially adjourned. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.